This is the story of the Battle of Adwa, the day Ethiopia shattered an Italian dream of conquest. A rising European power, armed with modern rifles and burning with colonial ambition, marches into the highlands of Ethiopia. Waiting for them is not a divided kingdom, but a nation united under one man, Emperor Menelik II, a ruler whose vision, diplomacy, and steel will turn the tide of history. But before the world sees him crush an army of 7,000 Italians in a single day, we must step back. Back to an Africa, carved up like spoils at a banquet, Britain seizing the west, France claiming the Sahara, Germany planting its flag in the east, and Italy, hungry for its own empire, setting its sights on Ethiopia. The late 19th century is a dark chapter in Africa's story. The so-called Scramble for Africa is in full swing, a feeding frenzy where European powers carve up over 90% of the continent between 1881 and 1914. Gold, ivory, rubber, fertile lands, the lifeblood of nations, all fuel an insatiable greed. To the empires of Europe, Africa is a treasure chest, and they have the crowbars to force it open, repeating rifles, machine guns, steamships, and telegraphs. Among these hungry powers is a newcomer, Italy. Unified only in 1861, still young, still desperate to prove itself worthy of the great imperial club. It plants its flag in Eritrea and Somaliland on the Horn of Africa, but those are just stepping stones. The real prize is Ethiopia. Ethiopia is no ordinary target. This is a land whose roots run deep into legend, a lineage said to descend from the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. A Christian kingdom whose faith has endured for centuries, guarded by ancient stone churches and sacred texts written in Ge'ez. A nation whose warrior tradition has never been broken. In a world where almost all of Africa is falling under foreign rule, Ethiopia stands alone, proud, unyielding, a beacon of independence in a darkening age. Menelik II, born Saleh Mariam in 1844, is the man fate chooses to rewrite the destiny of a nation. A prince from Shewa, deep in Ethiopia's southern highlands, he comes of age in a land splintered by ambition. The 1800s are a storm of rivalries, with powerful regional lords, the Ras, clawing for dominance over a fractured empire. But Menelik is not like the others. From the start, he is ambitious, razor-sharp, and unshakably determined. He learns quickly that in Ethiopia's Game of Thrones, survival is not about strength alone, it is about strategy. At just 18, destiny tests him. Emperor Taytu II, sensing the young prince's rising influence, has him seized and locked away in the mountain fortress of Magdala, a prison in the clouds. 10 long years pass. Behind those stone walls, Menelik does not wither. He studies his captors, learns their weaknesses, and masters the art of patience. Then, in 1865, the impossible happened. His allies launch a daring night assault on Magdala. Under the cloak of darkness, they scale the fortress, shatter its gates, and carry Menelik to freedom. Returning to Shewa, he wastes no time. He rallies warriors, crushes rivals, and forges alliances in fire and blood. His rise is relentless. By 1889, when Emperor Johannes IV fell in battle against Sudanese forces at Metema, Menelik moved with lightning speed. The crown is his. Negusa Nagast, King of Kings, now sits on Ethiopia's throne. And the world will soon learn that this king is not content to rule. He is destined to defy an empire. Menelik's reign is nothing short of a transformation, a revolution in the highlands. He envisions an Ethiopia united, modern, and unbreakable. From France, Russia, and across Europe, he buys not dozens, but over 100,000 rifles, matching the firepower of any colonial army that dares to test him. He cuts roads through mountains to bind his far-flung provinces, plants the beating heart of his empire in a new capital, Addis Ababa, and weaves together Ethiopia's many peoples, Amhara, Tigrayan, Oromo, and more, under one proud banner. At his side is Empress Taytu, not a queen in the shadows, but a force of nature. Fierce, brilliant, and utterly unyielding, she guides diplomacy with a steel-edged tongue, outwits foreign envoys, and leads warriors into battle with the same authority as her husband. Together, they forge a nation ready for whatever storms the horizon may bring. Menelik writes to Europe's crowned heads, even Queen Victoria herself studying their strategies while guarding his sovereignty like a hawk. His court hums with the energy of progress, the crackle of telegraph lines, the chatter of new schools, the bold plans for railways that will tie the empire together. Yet beyond the northern frontier, a shadow lengthens. Italy's ambition is growing, and soon it will come for everything Menelik has built. Italy, led by Prime Minister Francesco Crispi, sees Ethiopia as its path to colonial glory. In 1889, they signed the Treaty of Wuchale with Menelik, a document meant to secure peace and trade. But there's a sinister twist. The Italian version of the treaty declares Ethiopia a protectorate, placing its foreign affairs under Rome's control. The Amharic version, signed by Menelik, states that cooperation with Italy is optional, preserving Ethiopia's independence. It's a deliberate mistranslation, a colonial ploy to trap an unsuspecting nation. Menelik discovers the deception in 1893, poring over the texts with his advisors. Furious, he denounces the treaty, declaring Ethiopia's sovereignty to the world. Italy's response is swift and aggressive. From their base in Eritrea, they invade, capturing northern towns like Adigrat and Mekelle. Their forces push into Tigray, emboldened by earlier victories, like the Battle of Kotit in 1895. Europe expects a quick conquest. African armies, Zulus in South Africa, Ashanti in Ghana, have fallen to colonial might. Ethiopia, they assume, will follow. Menelik refuses to bow. He issues a call to arms that echoes across the empire. From Tigray's rocky highlands to Oromia's fertile plains, warriors respond, 80,000 to 100,000 strong. Spearmen armed with traditional shields, riflemen trained in modern tactics, and cavalry on swift horses assemble. Women join the fight, led by Empress Taytu, who commands 5,000 troops with the ferocity of a lioness. Villages are empty as farmers send grain, cattle, and bullets to supply the army. Menelik's rallying cry, Ethiopia for Ethiopians, unites a nation. Across the border, General Oreste Baritieri commands Italy's forces. A veteran of Italy's unification wars, he leads 17,000 men, Italian regulars in crisp uniforms and Eritrean askari, local recruits loyal to Rome. They carry Maxim machine guns, artillery pieces, and the confidence of a colonial power. But Baritieri faces mounting challenges. His troops are weary, plagued by malaria and dysentery. Supplies dwindle. Soldiers ration bread, horses weaken. The Ethiopian highlands, with their rugged peaks and narrow passes, are a far cry from the battlefields of Europe. In Rome, pressure builds. Crispi, desperate for a victory to boost Italy's prestige, cables Baritieri relentlessly. He mocks the general's caution, calling it military phthisis, a wasting disease, not war. Baritieri's scouts bring mixed reports. Some claim Menelik's army, devout Orthodox Christians, is weakening, fasting for Lent and dispersing to their villages. Others warn of a massive force, armed and ready. Baritieri hesitates, but Crispi's demands are unyielding. On February 28, 1896, he gathered his generals, Matteo Albertone, Giuseppe Aramondi, and Vittorio da Bermida, at his camp in Sauria, near Adwa. They pore over maps, but the charts are outdated, riddled with errors. The terrain is a maze of hills, ravines, and narrow paths. Albertone urges caution, citing the risk of ambush. Da Bermida argues for retreat, pointing to low supplies. But Baritieri, haunted by Rome's scorn, makes his choice. He orders a night march to surprise Menelik's army, aiming to seize high ground by dawn. The plan divides his 17,000 men into 3 brigades, Albertone on the left, Aramondi in the center, da Bermida on the right. It's a gamble, bold but fraught with danger. Ethiopian scouts, silent as shadows, track every move. Menelik, encamped near Adwa, knows the land intimately, every hill, every ravine. He positions his 80,000 troops across the valleys, using natural cover to mask their numbers. His generals are legends. Ras Alula, the Lion of the North, commands Tigray's warriors. Ras Mikhail leads Wollo's cavalry. Ras Makonnen marshals Harar's forces. Empress Taytu oversees logistics, ensuring food, water, and bullets reach the front. Menelik's army is not just large, it's armed to match Italy. Years of diplomacy have secured modern weapons, Remington rifles, Hotchkiss quick-firing guns, even a few cannons. His spies report the Italians' movements, their columns splitting in the dark. Menelik prays in his tent, Taytu at his side, as dawn nears. The Italians are walking into a trap, divided and blind. The night of February 28th is tense. Italian troops march through the darkness, stumbling over rocks and roots. Albertone's brigade, 4,000 strong, pushes too far, reaching Kidani Merit Hill, deep in Ethiopian territory. Aramondi's center lags behind, while de Bormida's right flank veers off course, separated by miles of treacherous terrain. Menelik receives word from his scouts. The Italians are fragmented, vulnerable. He nods, his eyes gleaming with resolve. The land itself, he knows, will fight for Ethiopia. Dawn breaks on March 1st, 1896, and the Battle of Adwa erupts. At 5:30 in the morning, Albertone's brigade clashes with Ethiopian outposts at Kidani Merit. Ras Alula unleashes his Tigrayan warriors, who fire from cliffs and ridges, their bullets tearing through Italian ranks. Albertone's artillery booms, shells bursting in the mist, but his men are pinned, unable to advance. He signals for help, but Aramondi and de Bormida are too distant, lost in the maze of hills. Menelik, watching from a command post with binoculars gifted by a French envoy, gives the order. His army surges forward, 50,000 warriors, in a tidal wave of spears, rifles, and hooves. Cavalry charges, shaking the earth. Riflemen pour fire from elevated positions. War horns blare, drums pound, and the air fills with smoke and screams. Empress Taytu commands the rear, directing supplies with unshakable calm. When water runs low, she rallies women to carry pots across the battlefield, dodging bullets and shrapnel. Her 5,000 troops, a mix of men and women, plug gaps in the line, repelling desperate Italian counterattacks. Taytu's voice cuts through the chaos. For Ethiopia. By 7:30, Albertone's brigade is annihilated. Over 2,000 Italians lie dead. Albertone himself is captured, bound, and led to Menelik's camp. De Bormida's right flank blunders into a valley, where Ras Mikhail's Oromo cavalry waits. The Italians' Maxim guns chatter briefly, but jam in the dust and heat. Ethiopian warriors swarm, overwhelming the brigade, seizing cannons and turning them on their former owners. Aramondi's center holds for an hour, its artillery pounding Ethiopian lines, but Menelik commits his reserves, 25,000 fresh troops from Shua, Harar, and beyond. The Italians are engulfed, their formations collapsing under the onslaught. Bariteris, watching from a ridge, sees his army disintegrate. He shouts orders, waving his sword, but his voice is drowned by the chaos. For Italy, he cries, but his men are fleeing, pursued by Ethiopian horsemen wielding spears and sabers. By noon, the battle is over. The Italians are routed, their retreat a desperate scramble through the hills. Bariteris escapes on a mule, his uniform stained with dust and shame. The toll is staggering, 6,000 Italians dead, 3,000 captured, including generals Albertone and Aramondi. Ethiopia loses 7,000 killed or wounded, a heavy price for a resounding victory. The battlefield is a grim tableau, rifles scattered, cannons overturned, bodies strewn across the valleys. But above it all, the Ethiopian flag flies. Green, yellow, red, a symbol of defiance. Why did Ethiopia triumph? Menelik's strategy was masterful. He chose the battlefield, using Adwa's hills and ravines to trap the Italians, forcing them to fight on his terms. His 80,000 troops overwhelmed Italy's 17,000. Morale was decisive. Ethiopians fought for their homes, their families, their freedom, while Italians fought for a distant empire's glory. And Menelik's modern arms, rifles, quick-firing guns, matched Italy's thanks to years of shrewd diplomacy with France, Russia, and others. He had outplayed Europe at its own game, turning their weapons against them. The world is stunned. In Rome, newspapers scream of disaster. The stock market crashes, and Crispy resigns, his government toppled by the defeat. In Africa, Adwa is a beacon of hope. Black communities in Haiti, Harlem, and across the diaspora celebrate seeing proof that colonial powers can be beaten. Menelik shows mercy, a mark of his strength. He treats prisoners humanely, providing food and medical care, and ransoms them back to Italy. He halts his army at Eritrea's border, choosing peace over conquest. In October 1896, the Treaty of Addis Ababa was signed. Italy recognizes. Ethiopia's independence was achieved at a heavy indemnity. Ethiopia stands as Africa's only uncolonized nation, alongside Liberia, a testament to Menelik's vision. Menelik's reign continued until 1913. He brings electricity to Addis Ababa, the first lights flickering in his palace. He builds railways connecting his empire and introduces Ethiopia's first cars, marvels that draw crowds. His court is a hub of progress. Schools teach modern sciences, telegraph lines hum with messages, and diplomats from Europe seek his favor. But challenges persist. Regional rivalries among the Razflare testing Ethiopia's unity. Menelik's health declined after a stroke in 1909, and he died in 1913, mourned as a hero. His grandson, Haile Selassie, takes the throne, inheriting a nation shaped by Adwa's triumph. Italy never forgets its humiliation. In 1935, Mussolini invaded Ethiopia using poison gas and warplanes. They occupied the country until 1941, but Adwa's spirit fuels resistance fighters who drive out the Italians with Allied support. Today, Adwa is Ethiopia's pride, a national holiday marked by parades, speeches, and tributes. Pan-Africanists hail it as a symbol of Black excellence, a moment when an African nation toppled a colonial giant. Rastafarians revere Menelik's line, seeing Haile Selassie as a divine heir. Adwa's lessons endure. Unity can overcome division, courage can defy odds. In a world of modern warfare, drones, missiles, cyber attacks, can underdogs still triumph? Conflicts like Ukraine's resistance against Russia echo Adwa's spirit, where strategy, terrain, and willpower outmatch raw power. Some historians speculate that European rivals, jealous of Italy's ambitions, quietly armed Menelik to weaken a competitor. The truth remains elusive, hidden in archives and whispers. Adwa challenges us to ask, in divided times, what is our battle? Where do we find the strength to stand, united, against overwhelming odds? Menelik proved that a determined people, led by a visionary, can rewrite history. His victory was not just a battle won, it was a declaration to the world. Africa will not bow. If you enjoyed watching this video, share, comment, and subscribe, and see you in our next video.